Good morning. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We're going to get started because we have a lot of ground to cover this morning. My name is Bridget Gallagher. I'm a fundraising consultant for the Global Investigative Journalism Network and a number of other media organizations. And today we're doing a sustainability workshop. So this is a two-part workshop. There's a second session after this. What you're going to hear from this morning is from 5 of Asia's kind of rock star journalpreneurs about their business models, how they've built and sustained organizations that share information. And we'll have time for a brief question and answer at the end of this. We have up until about 10:15. And then after the coffee break, you can come back in here, and we'll have a couple of experts from the investment side who can kind of sum up what we've heard, sort of tie some of these things together. What are the common themes and strategies of successful, sustainable organizations? And we'll have lots of time for Q&A as a group, a nice long conversation about sustainability and what that means for our organizations. And we should, at the end of that, have about 15-20 minutes for a sort of mini clinic. So you guys, if you have one-on-one questions for me, for some of these guys, for our investment experts, you're welcome to bring those individual questions to us, and we'll spend a couple of minutes workshopping that with you. Okay, so ideally you can attend both sessions. I think you'll get the most out of it if you can. But either way, there's sort of a smorgasbord of great ideas for you here this morning from Steve Gann from Malaysiakini, Yongjin Kim from Newstapa, Glenda Gloria from Rappler, Syed Nazakat from the Center for Investigative Journalism, India, and Govind Etiraj from IndiaSpend. So, Stephen, I'll let you take it away.
Can I just move forward? I cannot see the screen, so do you have the right? Malaysiakini, that's the one. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Okay. I think Malaysiakini is Malaysiakini means Malaysia now. Kini means now in Bahasa. And we are perhaps the oldest of the lot. We've been around for quite some time. So this one, does it work? That's right. Can we change it? Yeah. Okay, we've been around for in November we'll be 17 years old. So we've been around for 17 years, and we've been through many different trial and errors. We have the time to do that. Fortunately, each time we make changes, we manage to continue to survive. So that's a good thing. Otherwise, we won't be around today. So we started in 1999, and the first couple of years it was okay. Everyone at that time was banking on the advertising model, just like every other website at that time. And we came into a problem when when we suffered the first dot-com crash. In late 2000, 2001, that's when initially you had a lot of venture capital were pumping in a lot of money into all kinds of different websites around the world, and suddenly they realized that most of the websites are not really making any money, and they decided to pull out their capital, and all these websites disappeared. And we suffer from that because all these startups were advertising in Malaysiakini, because we're already the biggest website in Malaysia, so they need eyeballs, they need traffic to go to their site, so they advertise in Malaysiakini. So when they all disappeared, we also suffered. We thought that we're going to go along with them as well. We also disappeared. So we decided on a really radical strategy, which is a paywall. And I think we are one of the very first who thought of that. There's always talk about, there should be a subscription model and all that. But no one has actually tried seriously I think New York Times did try for a while, and they pulled out when it didn't really work. So they got COVID, and we thought, okay, we're already almost dying, so we decided that that's our last resort. We didn't have any technology to come up with password system and payment, system and all that. We look around, no companies in Malaysia were able to help out. We look around the world. I think there's one company in Sweden who can help out, but they're asking for too much money. So I told the two tech guys that we have, you have to come up with something. They came up with something. They did, and well, it's sort of workable. A lot of bugs in it. We decided, okay, no problem, we'll launch. Initially, it was hard. You can see our traffic drop from 300,000 to 10,000, just like that when you pull out the paywall. But over the years, we managed to bring them back. By 2008, we were doing okay, and then there was another switch. 2008 is an important year for Malaysia. It's the first time that the opposition managed to win a sizable number of seats. Of course, they didn't manage to dislodge the government. They won most of the urban areas, most of the capital cities, and two of the wealthiest states in the country. And suddenly, the brick and mortar companies realized that, look, a lot of the voters, a lot of Malaysians are no longer reading traditional media. They are already reading. They are already relying on Malaysiakini. So they decided that it's time for them to also advertise in Malaysiakini, and that helps us, because before that, really advertising did not contribute much income. We were only basically relying on subscription. 2008, we switched a bit. We moved down our paywall slightly. We offer about 30%, sometimes up to 50% of our content for free, and we take advertisement. Next one. Thanks. So basically, today, 2016, we are earning about 50% of our income from subscription, 50% from advertising. Subscription is $50 per year, and our total income per year is about 1.8 million. We are actually running 4 websites. Bahasa, 4 different languages: Bahasa, English, Chinese, and a TV site as well. Now, this part subscription, part advertising model is interesting for us because of the fact that you need to generate high traffic in order to attract advertisers. So, if you are solely based on subscription alone, you would not be able to generate that kind of traffic. You'd be just relying on the 20,000 subscribers that you have. So we pull down the paywall a little bit in order to give a bit of freebies to our readers, so that non-subscribers will come to the website as well, and hopefully by coming to the website every day, they would in time to come would decide to also subscribe to Malaysiakini. So it's a way for us to attract advertisers because we've got high traffic. And the other next slide, please. And to also increase our subscribers. So as I said, 30 to 50% of content is provided free. We have 400,000 unique visitors a day, 4 million Facebook fans, 700,000 Twitter followers. Facebook fans is important because increasingly you can sell advertisement through Facebook, and it's considered a separate website, so to speak. So, for us, it's important. We have a social media editor that focuses solely on, Facebook and Twitter, engaging our readers through that. So, the journalists do not have to worry about that. We have someone that's just solely focused on looking after our social media outreach. And I say subscription is important too, in a sense that subscription is it offers you a stable, predictable income, because you know exactly how many subscribers you have. and it's much easier for you to plan ahead. Advertising is a little bit more unpredictable because of the fact that it depends on the economy. If the economy is doing well, you have more advertising, and if it's not doing so well, that's when you see a drop in advertising. So it helps to stabilize our income. That's why subscription is important. Next step. So from our experience, more than 16 years experience, I think there are three key ingredients for a successful website. I think there are more, but I think that these are the three key ones. Content is important. You need to provide unique content. You need to provide content that people value. They value enough to actually willing to pay. So that is important. So I think all of you are able to do that. But look into that. Don't forget that content is still key to that to a successful website. Second one is subscription or a membership model. Newstapa, next one, Yongjin will be talking about his model, which is slightly different from Malaysiakini. Theirs is a membership model, which is also interesting. And in fact, we are learning from him that we may actually, look at adopting part of it too later on. But you really need to also get some support from your readers. See how they can actually contribute some money to the website. And the third key ingredient is that public engagement. Unlike old media, especially newspaper, you just pull out your content and that's it. You leave the rest to everything. There's no there's no connection to your readers so much. The only connection is that mostly just letters to the editors. That's the only reaction that you get from your readers. But with internet, I think it's very different, and especially with social media as well. Public engagement is really, really important. You need to engage your readers practically every day. You need to make sure that they are part of you, that they share your mission, that that they support you not just for your content, but they support you for something bigger. A bigger, it's a greater calling. That is why they are supporting you. For Malaysiakini, it is they are supporting us not just for the content. It's also they're supporting us as to support independent media in Malaysia, because there is no other independent media in Malaysia. So we always say that subscribe to Malaysia, support independent media. So you tie that two ideas together, so that people give the money not just they want to read Malaysiakini, but also because they support independent media. Next one, please. This is one of our public engagement campaign. We decided in 2014 that we want to build a new headquarters. We've been kicked out from our offices a number of times. One time in 2003, I think, more than 10 years ago, the building that we were in was bought over by a government crony, and immediately they sent us an eviction order. We had no time to look for another place, so we had to operate from a shopping mall. For 1 week, our office was outside Burger King in one of the major shopping malls in Kuala Lumpur. And that's great too, because we announced it, and readers, our supporters will come and say, hi, how are you, to all that. It's great. It's an open office. And for 1 week, we were able to actually connect with our readers openly. But anyway, we decided that it's time for us to have our own building. So the idea is to sell them a brick. We raised about $500,000 from it, $500,000 US. We sell each brick for $350 US. Over 3 months, we sold over 1,000 bricks, and we launched our new building in November 2014, which is our 15th-year anniversary. Next one, please. I'll just show you. This is our new building. This is partly paid for by our supporters. It's great. Next one, please. This is the wall that we built. This is the bricks that they bought. So we put their name on each of the bricks, and we built a wall in the new building. And it's great for them too, because they like it. They come and visit the building. They take photos. They point at their name. You know, this is the kind of public engagement I'm talking about, that you need to make them feel that they're part of the organization. Next one, please. And when we launched the new building, we had an open house. You know, for the whole day, we say, look, you know, come and visit us. The journalists and editors will be around. They can come and talk to us, you know, directly. We show them around the new office because they helped contributed to that building. We explain to them, you know, this is where we work, blah blah blah. You know, they take photos of you know, of themselves with us. You know, with different places in the building. We had dinner. We had a street party that night, and 1,000 people were there. We closed off the whole street in front of the building, and we had the launch at about 7-8 o'clock at night. Next one, please. That's it. This is part of the Malaysiakini team. We took this photo. It's called At the Edge. This was because of the fact that another media organization was attacked at that time. We decided to take this photo in support of them, and we put it up on our website. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to sharing my information of 4 years learning Korea Center for Investigative Journalism. That organization is the first and the only non-profit, non-partisan, independent investigative news site in Korea, in South and also North, right? Okay, Stephen just said we adopted a membership model. Can you open the slide? Change it, please. I'd like to start with this graph. This graph shows IJAsia's membership trend in the last 4 years. It goes up from 0 to 40,000 now. You can see the spikes in membership concurs after we posted our exclusive investigation, like offshore tax haven project with IJAsia, and coverage about the Sewol ferry disaster, and recent exposing Samsung chairman's sex scandal. This means that original and excellent investigative reporting is our most powerful growth engine. Next, please. I think many of our audience were moved emotionally when they see our investigative stories. So it's very important to grab our audience right away who wants to join the membership before they change their mind. This is IJAsia's membership registration page. People mostly come to this page from the main homepage, but considerable number of people also come through the donation plug-ins on our video contents. People sign up to make a regular donation here. They can use a mobile, PC, tablet, or paper form they prefer. Membership registration procedure is very simple with only 4 steps. From $10 to $100 per month, as you see. But you can put down an amount as much as you want in the blank. And click next button. At the next step, you need to put down your bank account number or owner's name and date of birth, withdrawal date, etc. And next, please. Next, you personal information like telephone number, emails required. That's it. People also can set up an auto pay with the credit card and PayPal to donate every month. Monthly donation system allows us to predict revenue and timeline pretty accurately, and this is a very stable source of funding. Change, please. Last year, GIJN brought in about 5 million US dollar. Average monthly donation is about 15 US dollar per member. And we rely 100% on membership donation. In terms of demographic research on our members, 56% are male and 44% are female, based on our membership registration information. And the members in their 40s are 45% and their 30s are 32%. And 58% of members reside in Seoul and near metropolitan area. We survey our donation members every year on regular basis. We ask them why you support us. The highest reason they answered is they were very disappointed in mainstream media in South Korea, so they joined the membership and started to donate us. Second one is they trusted in Newstapa's matchless investigative reporting. Next. GIJN started in with the individual donation model, firstly because a number of major nonprofits in Korea have already been successfully operating with such a model. Moreover, membership donation model has freed us from political and corporation power and has also allowed us to predict the size and timeline of our revenues. But the unique circumstance we were in when we first started also played a big role in why we adopted this financial model. We had actually been operating as a sort of project team for a year before we officially launched it as GIJN in February 2013. We were a team of less than 10 journalists, and the majority of them were journalists laid off from mainstream media after voicing for press freedom. Change, please. We started reporting on important stories mainstream media were not able to cover and uploaded our work to YouTube and podcast. Our first ever video story in January 2012 marked 1 million YouTube views. We continue to focus on issues major media outlets were overlooking or ignored, such as Lee Myung-bak administration's corruption and illegal surveillance. We didn't really have much source of funding at the time, and we sometimes paid for our reporting ourselves. After hearing about our situation, our viewers expressed their wish to make donations. But we refused to accept donations until we came to the situation in which we couldn't continue our work because we had no source of funding. So we started accepting donation in August 2012, and that's when our membership model started. I want to stress again that we did not accept donation for a while, even though many people wanted to do so from the start. And I want to give advice to those wanting to start a nonprofit investigative like this. Before you ask for donation from the public, prove that your work is worth a donation in advance. Please. We now are using social media very vividly to spread out our content more widely and drawing more donation members. You see, we have 149,000 YouTube subscribes and 330,000 Twitter follows, like that. Change, please. This diagram shows various ways to access Newstapa contents. Change, please. Next, I'm going to talk about our engagement project with members. We invite our members to our event usually held it in our office and conference room every month to premiere our main program, main news weekly show, before we publish them. After the screening preview, we open up the floor to reporters who work on the stories and the audience to talk about the story with our reporters or producers. Then members can take a short tour of a newsroom and the studio. We try to show them in their eyes that their donation drive a non-profit like our shelvers to continue on. Not surprisingly, they are unusually really moved. Change, please. At the end of every year, we host a pretty big party and invite our members to thank them and celebrate the year together. Our staffs play instruments and sing themselves for fun, but we also invite professional musicians to perform and show our top 10 stories chosen by our members. It's fun, but also very meaningful for all of us. Members see for themselves that so many others support GIJN with them and develop some sort of solidarity. We also try to communicate with our members regularly through our text message, emails, and newsletters from myself. We also send out calendars featuring our members at the end of every year. The calendar like that. Change, please. And recently, we've been touring around the country, South Korea, to premiere our new documentary film, Spy Nation. We invited all our 40,000 members for free premieres, and more than 10,000 people RSVP'd for premiere events. More than 20,000 people supported our documentary production fundraising, and we've raised $400,000 for 2 months. We are in the middle of a huge premiere tour, unheard of in Korean film history, and we plan to officially release the movie after the tour on 13 next month, October. Change, please. This is a book we published not long ago. It's the first our project to publish our major stories in books. We will be sending this book to our members that have been with us for 3 or more years at the end of this year. Change, please. I believe GIJN has become a social asset with 40,000 people supporting us, so we make every effort to contribute our knowledge and resource back to the society. An example is our middle school, high school, college field trip program. It's not difficult to see GIJN's office packed with young students. They are visiting for our field trip program. We also run a month-long training program over the summer and winter vacation for aspiring journalists. Change, please. Apart from the regular journalism training program, to take full advantage of our specialty, we have started a data journalism workshop last summer for working journalists, college or graduate students, and non-profit activists. The workshop involves a total of 8 training sessions, 3 hours a day in the evening, twice every week. Please. Okay, last slide. Like this, we keep ourselves busy with a variety of membership engagement projects and free training sessions to keep existing members in the loop and to bring in new members. In Korea, many people donate to nonprofits just to support their acquaintance and often stop donating within 1 to 3 years. But over 90% of our members that have been with the GIJN since 2012 still support us, 90%. So I'm very proud to say we have very loyal members, and I think the membership programs introduced earlier played a big role in the success. But we have to remember the most important thing of all, before any outreach projects or marketing effort, the quality of journalism. Exceptional investigative coverage that no one else can do, and the fierce struggle for the public's right to know. That's the most important and the most effective strategy in drawing in donation members and sustaining them. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Glenda Gloria. I'm the managing editor of Rappler, and I'd like to walk you through in very few slides. There's a lot of story to tell, but just so to allow time later for discussions, let me make this brief. Rappler was set up for profit. Let us be clear. When we set up the organization in 2012, we were of one mind to it. We wanted to show the world that good journalism sells, and that we can prove a perfect combination of entrepreneurship and journalism. And the way when we were created at that point, it was the age of disruption. As you know, there was fast evolving changes in technology. Media was being forced to adjust to the new landscape, and we were caught in that world. And therefore, the kind of thinking guided everything that we do, in terms of if we wanted to have 3 principles that guided content, those same principles should apply to how we make money. And so there is no divide between the kind of quality journalism that we produce and the kind of business model that we wanted to pursue. And so for the first 3 elements, Rappler really stands on 3 pegs and 3 core values, which have been very significant in how we sold the organization in terms of our clients and how we produce content. The number 1, of course, is credibility and independence. This is the first online-only news site that is majority owned by the journalists, on the basis of a seed fund from a businessman. And that is very important to us. Number 2 is that we do not treat our crowd in our community as second-class citizens. When we say journalism and community, we really try to walk the talk, and therefore community is really very much part of our journalism. Our crowd engagement is very much part of what we do in terms of content. And the 3rd pillar of our organization is really using technology for social good, because Rappler was created for social good, to make this world a better place. And these 3 pegs guided both the way we produce journalism and the way we sold content. So in terms of that, while we struggled and we tried very hard to change the game in how journalism is done using technology, we also were very adamant that we change the world in the way advertising is seen in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia. And therefore, we introduced the kind of engagement that did away with how other news sites would sell themselves based on page views. We did away with selling metrics. We did away with showing display or banner ads. Those to us were a bit far behind. So we sold advertising as our primary revenue stream as a whole package, which means what? Beyond doing quality native content advertising on our site, we include the community and we do social conversations on Twitter and Facebook. And beyond online, similar to my colleague in Korea, we do a series of workshops with students, with communities, on top of the paid events that bring together experts. So it's a combination of on-ground and online presence in terms of engagement. We did a lot of social video executions that probably later in our one-on-one I could show you. I just don't want to eat into your time now. And a lot of infographics. So these 3 pegs are what our very hardworking sales team would sell to the clients. And in the same manner, probably you'd ask, but there's a lot of ethical issues surrounding native advertising. To us, what we do follow as far as the strict editorial guidelines are concerned are also applied in the way we do native advertising, which means what? We do not do hard sell. Number 2, we do not promote falsehood in terms of false advertising. And number 3, which is really the most important as far as our companies and advertisers are concerned, we do quality content for them. The passive ads are what you call the programmatic ads, and we can explain that later on. There's the subscription model of Malaysiakini, but I can discuss that and why we did not try that early on. Next slide, Peach. There's another peg also of the way we earn we use resources, and that is grant funding. You have to understand the Philippine context, that there's still a lot of social issues that are very close to the hearts of the funding agencies, funding institutions, such as USAID or AusAid for that matter. And the way we try to change the game in that partnership is precisely not just to do content partnership with them, but to use the technology of Rappler as a platform for the funding institutions and the communities to be able to meet and do their advocacies. Probably I could cite a sample for you, and these are just the 3 main grant revenue streams that we've done, but it's been very successful. This is just not on my watch. This is our anti-corruption platform that is on Rappler. This is in partnership with the UK government. It's a huge project that involves crowdsourcing, trying to get the communities in very key areas in the Philippines precisely to report corruption. And the way we do it is precisely, it's very personal. It's not on my watch, so that if you see a corrupt policeman, then you could use video, and we've offered platform. So it's beyond writing about it. It's precisely, and I could discuss one-on-one, and I show you the platform itself. This one we launched just a few weeks ago. The next would be our platform on disaster management. Project Agos is our very tech-savvy platform, which brings together rescue and relief agencies and connects them to victims of disaster. We always we activate Project Agos, and if you're on your laptops now, you can go to this site. Whenever there's a big typhoon or big storm, and there's a map that connects, and then via hashtag Agos, via hashtag on Twitter, and via text messages, you can plot a disaster, and you can say that if you're a victim, I'm being flooded here, and the rescue agencies, which we are partners with, have that platform, so that then they can be informed immediately of where you are and facilitate rescue and relief. Agos is very much supported by both non-government and government agencies. This is the soul of our organization. It is payback time. We don't really earn from it, but it's our goodwill for a country that is very prone to disaster. And that makes, I think, the community very engaged in other forms for good governance as well. The third is a platform called x.rappler.com. If you go to this website, it is still on Rappler, but it's very similar to Medium, but we connect communities. This is a self-blogging platform. You can upload your videos, but it's not a selfie platform. It is more a platform that connects student groups. It allows them to then already do their own blogs on this platform and connects them to their communities. Sorry, the internet doesn't. And then they can discover each other to connect with each other. So these are a lot of these engagements are supported by grant agencies. So the two revenue streams of Rappler basically is dominantly advertising and grants. And perhaps the next question is, because Malaysiakini started with a subscription model, and my colleague from Korea talked about membership. That is probably in our second phase, and we're looking at it in the coming months. But again, we go back to the three pillars of what we are as an organization. The membership and subscription model that we are intending to do would still be based on engagement and community. Because to us, we very much believe that without online and on-ground engagement, Rappler would not be where it is. So I'd welcome questions later on how we can discuss the details. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. In India, we run this Center for Investigative Journalism. It's a kind of modest organization. You know, when I see the scale of Rappler and Malaysiakini, and then came from Korea, we're really modest. But what we started actually we had some vision that if we do this thing, where we'll be in the next 1 or 2, 3 years. And we took a modest view of the situation. But actually, we were really surprised how things unfolded for us. So it was just a passion of like spending your weekend or doing something on your weekend, making it useful. And actually, it eventually became a full-fledged organization with a global network now. If you just help me quickly. So this is the India story, if you can see it at the whole thing. Like who we are, where we come from, and why this center is so important for us. Yeah. So like, we got a collaboration with the GIJN, and we kind of selected almost 500 watchdog story from across India. The reason for that was that there was a lot of watchdog reporting going on the ground, but it was not visible in some way to a lot of Indian audience and international audience. So we put it on a website. We got toolkits there. We got journalists who wrote for us. We got volunteers in all across India. We did training, everything. We supported Indian journalists, almost 40 of them, with fellowships, training, higher education. We collaborated with almost 100 international journalists, including the 2 French journalists who are doing a very in-depth documentary on a political issue in India, which is going to be broadcast soon. We collaborated with a journalist from America who is investigating one of the biggest pharma company in India. It's going to be a book next year. So this is just a round of what we really did in the last 2 years. But the interesting part is actually we have not done any fundraising at all till now in the last 2 years. Not a single penny. But yeah, of course, we are now collaborating with the ICFJ for a big international project, which if they win, we'll be part of that. But in the last 2 years, we did all this work, all these workshops, everything, say without any money. A lot of people are really surprised, hey, how we are making money to run all this. So what we did actually is that was a little bit also kind of, when you start something, you never know which way the things will go. We started something called data leads. And then through this data leads, what we do basically is that we started collecting data on energy security, climate change, and health. And we saw a lot of interest of a lot of people in these areas. And we thought like we can sell this data and make some money out of it. So we started something called Health Analytics India. If I just quickly show you the website. Yeah. So this is the website actually. Is a paid website. You can, for example, if you want to use this data, you have to pay $20 a year. And actually, if you could just go a little bit down, actually, yeah, just slash it down a little bit. So it's all paid actually. So this much is free, but if you want to go a little bit bigger, you have to pay for it. So we built a model on it by mid of 2014, and we were really surprised that half million people in first 3 months visited our website, and this was completely like we were never ever expecting even a couple of thousand people. And I can show you one slide that give you idea about like I just wanted to have this one maybe, yeah, this one here. Yeah, so you can see it actually. This was the readership which came to us within 1 year, and you can see actually here. This is 64% readership was in India, but then we got a lot of global interest. And the thing for us was actually that we were selling Indian data, and we were saying, what is their interest into Indian health data? But then we realized actually there were a number of international companies from these countries who were investing in healthcare business in India, and they wanted to know what's happening. And we said, oh, it's a great thing. And then we started exploring different models actually. So we got a subscription done, and we started getting advertisements. First one from one of the biggest hospitals in India, then from a foreign company, then from a Google as a part of collaboration. So in the last, yeah, so just go a little bit down, because I just want to quickly go through it. So we are here, and then you can see actually in the last 2 years, we got a collaboration with the Asia News Network. It's actually one of the biggest networks in the world. Like if you look at the numbers, like it is 40 million circulation and 50 million readership. Is based in Bangkok. And they asked us whether we can do some data work for them or help them with some data visualization. We said, it's a great opportunity for us. We should take care of it. And we started partnering with them from the 2015. And most recently, the WHO approached us and said, they have been publishing a lot of documents every year, second year, and they have a global summit in Sri Lanka. And they want to have a report there which actually tells a very complex health story to the policymakers. And we told them, why don't you visualize the data and make it simple and make text less and all that? So they said, can you guys do it? I said, of course we'll do it. And we worked on it for a couple of months, and we produced a document of 70 pages, completely data-driven. And the WHO people were telling us that it is for the first time in the last 20 years, they did something with the data visualization as a project. And they released the document in Sri Lanka. We work with the Reuters Foundation in India. We did one workshop for them in Bihar, which is one of the largest, biggest states in India. And then we're also pitching a project with the Reuters, or a year-long investigation. And then we're doing series of boot camps, because a lot of things happening in a very different ways actually. So a lot of people say, how you guys do it? Like so many different projects with different nature and all that. But it all worked simultaneously. One by one, it took us we did something with East West Center more recently in Delhi. We supported them in a conference. So though it was not really a financial gain and loss, but it was a great opportunity for us to be part of a great event, which was like 300 delegates coming, becoming part of it, and we spoke about what we do and all that. And we started also something very interesting, which I really want to share with you, that we started doing data boot camps in India on healthcare reporting. And what we do is we get 20 journalists and 20 medical doctors together for a full day. And we discuss how to obtain healthcare data, and the issues related about it is reporting and factual accuracy and verification. And it quite clicked with a lot of people. And we found actually a lot of medical institutions coming forward saying, hey, you don't bother about funds. We will support you as a part of our research, because this is a great opportunity for us. And we did 4 of them in India, and in each workshop we get around 45 people. And we are doing actually one here in Nepal after this conference is over, because we thought we are already here, we should do something with the Nepali journalists. So we are on Monday, we are doing a data boot camp at one of the biggest hospitals here with 20 doctors and 20 health journalists. And that has actually completely taken care of its finances, because it's sponsored by local partners. So we just come, do it, and we go back, and local people take care of the whole event. So, yeah, one more. So basically this is how we make money. So we have a subscription, we get advertisements, we do data analytics projects, data consultancy, and for the boot camps, we get a lot of local sponsors. But I think the lesson we learned in the whole last 2 years while doing all this work was that actually the money was never our first target, though we always wanted to run it for the profit. CIJ was actually, for us, we were passionate about investigative journalism. It was kind of, you can say, our passion to promote it. But we always were looking for models where we can sustain on our own without any grants. So, and we took a very early decision to build CIJ as a platform and a network space where journalists can come and contribute, not really do the reporting. Because when you come into the reporting, it's expensive business. And we had no resources to do it. And we were not really keen to go for the grants. I think that was one of the decisions we took quite early. And then second was to be always available for a lot of opportunities which were emerging. And we were always open to discuss with a lot of people. If they come to us, hey, we have this project. So we never said no actually to anyone until we had the discussion, until we figured out whether it really suits or not. So if we thought it is something which we can do and it can amplify our work, readership, we did it. But the money was never the first consideration. Like we started with a 1-person team in Delhi in 2014, and today we got a 10 paid staff, and we got around 10 or 15 people who work with us on consultancy basis. So, and we are still we're hiring 2 more people actually next month, and then by the end of the year we are planning to hire a couple of more. And it is simultaneously working. So lessons for us was never think of actually like too much about money first. But get your business model right. What really you want, who is your audience, whether it's a successful business model, whether it will survive on its own. If you get those things correct, like we got our first business back by 3rd month. And my humble understanding was that we will not get any business, at least we crossed 2 years. But we got our business almost done in 2 months. We got all the investment return by the end of 1st year. And so, and we were actually already making profit. We're still like in the 3rd year. We're still already making profit about the whole adventure. So, thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I don't really have a presentation, so I'm going to sit here and talk. So we founded IndiaSpend about a little over 4 years ago. The objective was to improve the quality of public discourse. We also in some ways wanted to address the whole problem of the quality of journalism which was deteriorating, and this was in some way our response to it. We started basically with 3 of our friends became trustees. We put our own money in and we formed it as a non-profit. The reason we formed it as a non-profit was we felt that a for-profit model would push us to go towards the advertising model, and that in turn would cause us to do content which we didn't want to do. So the content, we defined it as being in public interest. The approach was to use data to tell stories and really fill gaps in what we saw in the whole overall reporting environment in India. So we focus on 4 or 5 areas. We focus on healthcare, education, environment, gender, and to some extent infrastructure. We started doing a couple of stories a week and slowly built up. In the first year we didn't get any contribution or donation, which also obviously leads to lesson number 1. Most donors like to see something concrete before, or a proof of concept before they actually give it to you. At least in our case, despite many people who we knew. And equally, we didn't approach them. Actually, the first donor and the substantial donor who came to us approached us rather than our approaching her, as it happens. The second and the third years were really building out our content and our investigative, I would say, data investigative library, so to speak. So we did 2 or 3 things. So when we were short-staffed, we really focused on stories where we felt that we could create a primer. So so most people are searching for an education primer in India. How many schools there are? What is the split between primary education, secondary education? How many teachers? How many government schools, private schools, budget? So we started building primers. So we said that we don't have the reporting resources to go out and actually do stories, but let's build primers because people are always searching for these things on the internet in one place. So we did a lot of those, and we of course continue to do that. So similarly in healthcare, we would build a primer and bring in as much data as we can, and obviously a manner that's easily understandable and ideally well visualized as well. So we continued to do that for some time, and we found obviously that we started getting some traction. Now, when we started, my whole objective was that we will create this whole public interest initiative or journalism initiative, and millions of people will come and read it, and we will transform India. That did not happen. And we quickly figured that the only way to really grow this was to, at least from our point of view, was to actually build a more B2B or a partnership model rather than a B2C model. Among other things, it was quite evident that the kind of work we're doing is quite dense. And much as we are passionate about it, not everyone wants to get up in the morning and read about malnutrition deaths in central India, or some other problem with, let's say, health and sanitation, or some other problem to do with gender inequality. But however, for a newspaper which is typically putting out, let's say, 100 stories or 75 stories, this could clearly be one of them. And whether it's on digital or even, for that matter, on print. So that's the model we started pursuing, and it's only in the last 4 or 5 months that we've actually begun charging subscriptions. So we didn't set a target as such, but it's now evolving in a manner that roughly about 30% of our income, 30% of our total expenditure will be met through income from our publishing partners. Our publishing partners include some of the largest newspapers in India, online dailies, wire services, TV stations, and so on. And our typical, and because we sort of we took a B2B model and we started working with publishing partners, our distribution reach has obviously gone up by in geometric proportion. So let's say a good story on our website would have been read by maybe 7,000 or 8,000 people, but thanks to our distribution, maybe anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million people could read a good story on a good day, and which is almost every day. And this is not just across India, but because we distribute to some a leading wire service called India Abroad News Service, they in turn distribute to 400 customers or clients of theirs across the region. So it's multiplied. Obviously, everyone doesn't take every story, but most people take most stories. We're also finding that people pick up small pieces of our stories, which is, for instance, just the data charts, which mostly tell stories of their own. And we also push that a lot on social media, including Twitter and Facebook, independently, and LinkedIn, apart from the stories themselves. So this has been our broad journey. We've got about 2 or 3 different types of contributions. We've got individuals who've supported us. We've got an organization that is a trust, which is actually the first Indian media-focused trust. It's called the Independent and Public-Spirited Media Foundation. It was initiated by one of India's biggest IT billionaires. His name is Azim Premji. And he brought in another 10 industrialists, businessmen, and an actor, a very well-known actor, Amir Khan, if anyone knows, into this trust. And they've put together a corpus of about $25 million, and they in turn are giving money. So we were actually the first recipients of that fund. So till then there was no organized media fund in India, and now of course there is. But even them, I think most donors and funds like IPSMF are keen to see how organizations like us can build a self-sustainable model. And that, I guess, is the other lesson for us to keep focus on. I talked about the subscription. One of the things we did about a year ago, actually we started work about a year ago, we launched it in November, as part of our environment outreach, was to basically get involved in the area of air quality, and we built, and that's the chart there. I mean, it's not a chart, it's actually a live website which shows you our air quality monitoring stations across the country. And we built this basically because we felt that there was a huge data gap. We didn't exactly see it as a business, but we did see some sort of additional funding opportunity from this. It's actually evolved in a slightly different way. So one is that we did get funding for this, and we got subsequent. I mean, after we launched it, we got funding, and someone said that why can't you take it to 10 more cities? And then they want to come back to us and say, okay, now take it to 20 more cities, which also presents a slightly fundamental challenge, because we are a data journalism initiative with the objective of improving the quality of public discourse. We are not a device company or an air quality measurement company. But as it happens, we've got two potential investors who are almost, if I may only mildly exaggerate, pounding on our doors, wanting to get a piece of this company. Now, the only pushback from our side is that we never got into this to, like I said, build a device company, and one of the potential investors is an air purifier. It's actually a very large global multinational air purifier company who wants to invest in this because they see this as a public service initiative in addition to serving their product need. So it's just an illustration of how some things you do may actually lead to something else, but eventually give you traction in terms of outreach, because people like this product. We also tied up with Twitter, by the way. So if you tweet and you tweet to breathe with the hashtag breathe, and you say Delhi, or actually the specific place in Delhi, then you'll get a little image which shows you the air quality level at that point of time. So we never intended to do this in this fashion. We continue to be committed to covering environment and energy in some ways, because the two are linked. But this is something that has brought us, like I said, some sort of reach, appreciation, and the possibility of revenue. If I were to look at the year ahead, I think we continue to be focused on saying how do we want to do better data journalism. Within that, we want to go much deeper into areas like healthcare and education. We want to start doing more primary research. While we believe that the quality of secondary data is reasonably good in India, we also are now, as we've got better at doing these things, begun to identify the gaps. And we've actually did our first report using a combination of primary data and secondary data about 2 or 3 months ago. It was about migration and the ill effects of migration caused by distress, caused by agrarian distress and drought, and what that does to families, and what that has caused in terms of, let's say, the problems that are being faced in places where it's happening, as well as the urban centers like Bombay, where the migration. So these are some of the things that we are doing. We are also hoping that we will work with more specialist donors this year, and we've already started work. So we are seeing that people who are, let's say, funding initiatives in education and healthcare on the intervention side also want to work with media, because they want to add a layer of advocacy to what they're doing. So just to give you an indirect example, let's say, Gates Foundation is doing a lot of work in family planning or AIDS. So it's likely that they may work or support media initiatives which are doing pretty researched or in-depth reporting or investigation in those areas. And we are seeing a lot of think tanks think like that, and beginning to support initiatives like this. And I'm sure this is happening in other parts of the world too. I think the flip side is that you should also know who not to go to. I think we've realized that while we have been lucky with some donors and some institutions, we've also in some ways wasted a lot of time with people for whom the understanding of media as a tool to bring about change is not clear. I mean, we don't blame them, but I think it's important that we know who is clear about the role of media and who in some senses is not. I think sometimes people tend to assume that media is a direct intervention tool. It's not. I mean, we could report on water resources, the challenges faced in ferrying water, the challenges caused by climate change, but we can't fix leaking pipes. And that's not our job, and nor will it be. But some people don't get that. And I think it's important that we know as a community who gets it and who doesn't. And sometimes it's a process of painful experimentation. So I'm going to pause there and hand it back to this thing, because I know we've run out of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think there were a lot of tremendously smart suggestions and food for thought in this discussion. I guess one question that I have is to sort of talk about the other side of business planning and sustainability, which is how you spend the money. You know, we've spent a lot of time talking about smart ideas for community engagement and growing your donor base and diversifying your revenue streams. But how do you guys think about spending the money? How do you think about budgeting and cost control? You know, when Stephen, you mentioned that you had hired a dedicated social media editor to manage that kind of side of your community engagement. You know, when did you decide to make that decision, and how do you guys, you know, overall balance supporting programs, supporting content versus the kind of sustainability functions like a COO or a communications director? Anybody care to weigh in on that?
So I think in some ways it's quite simple. I mean, if we have $1,000, then we can only spend $1,000. There's no, I mean, there is no, this is, at least the non-profit structure doesn't allow you to, go overdraft and things like that. I think it's part of it is evolution. I mean, for instance, we've managed to do, I mean, I'm also a founder of another company which is in the digital video space. So that in some ways subsidizes this. And I think, unfortunately, if you were to really put the cost of, our time and the cost of running the organization, it will typically be much more than the amount of money we're collecting, at least for the model that we're adopting. Now, so that's a sacrifice we have to make. I mean, between me and our editor, I know that our market cost, if we were to really put that in, would be way beyond even what we spend, let's say, in 2 years. So someone's got to make a sacrifice, and I think that's the non-profit, I guess it's a credo for the non-profit world. Having said that, I think what we're trying to do is we try and, for instance, we need a CTO desperately, and we found someone who worked on our air quality project, and we also used him to sort of start working and advising us on things like visualization and so on. So we have like a part-time CEO. Similarly, we have someone like a part-time CFO who's working with us. But in an ideal world, I think all these operational roles, which I think we should manage in a year's time, should be filled by people who are specialists at that. But it usually, for at least in our world, doesn't happen in the first couple of years.
I think for Rappler, the main challenge that we had to address was precisely because we were competing with the mainstream media, which had an average of 1,000 employees, and we started with 1,000 people. Though the thinking came that, you know, we had to focus on quality content and the kind of unique proposition that we offer as in terms of content. So that one, we invested in the kind of quality reporting that we do, both multimedia. Second, I think technology has allowed us a lot of free ride, so to speak, in terms of using that to facilitate certain coverage, using social media or social media team to gather news. Of course, with the vetting of veteran editors who man the desk. Third, I think it's not a question of cost cutting per se. I think what we've learned over the years is not to cut costs for the sake of just because you have limited money. Because this is also a world where a lot of game-changing experiments have to be done for you to be up there and ahead of the game. And that's always been a difficult balancing act. So we choose the big projects. We take certain risks. We're not afraid to take certain risks and probably even spend for things that probably don't fail, that don't succeed. But I think the challenge there is probably to adjust and to know when it's failing so that you don't wait a year, because a year in this age is a lifetime. And so we have key benchmarks. Are we always successful? No. We're journalists first and managers second. That's why the company is constantly restructuring to accommodate these requirements. Thank you.
One thing that we learned is we always paid market rate. To our contributors, while we may have put our own money into the non-profit to do it sometime, at least in the early years, we found that by paying market rate to contributors, by paying market salaries, even for the few people we have the best.
Our finance model is very simple. Income and spending is very simple, quite simple. We spend our income, 80% of our income. We spend for editorial purpose and administration purpose, and we set up the plan. We keep the other 20% of our income keep for the future. So we think membership model is very solid now, but not perfect. So we keep the money for perfectly for future. Okay.
Yeah, I think management is important. Really, I think a lot of media organizations, especially startups, somehow do not focus enough on management. Budgeting is definitely crucial. So I think it's important to make sure that you keep an eye on the costs. It's important to actually bring in the income, but also it's important also make sure that while you are bringing income, it's not a leaky bucket, that the water is leaking all the time. So you have to make sure that the cost is being kept manageable to a certain extent. Yes, we do. Whatever profits that we make, we do set it aside as a reserve later on, just to make sure that we have something to tie us in bad times. Whatever additional stuff that we can actually invest in, we'll do that. But really, in a situation where you're not making high profits, it's a hand-to-mouth existence. So so you expand in areas you think you can, but you need to be to be prudent. You don't want to overextend yourself to the point where suddenly you need to borrow money. So that's not very good. So I think it's easy in one way because of the fact that you don't have much to spend anyway. But on the other hand, definitely it does limits in terms of how much you can do. So you need to be more selective when it comes to the things that you need to invest in. If you want to hire an additional person or 2 or 3 additional person, whether you are able to maintain that in years to come, all that. So you have to factor all that in.
Actually, when it's a for-the-profit company, so it's entirely a different ball game then, because you're putting your own money into it, and you're having a vision that you will earn this money back and make a profit after that. But I think it was really essential in terms of not to spend too much money on infrastructure. And we decided actually to have a very modest space where we can put 2 or 3 computers and all that. And we also made sure that from the day one we start actually good amount of money on promotion, what we are doing. Basically a reach out plan, so how much we should spend on our travel to meet people who we think can understand what we are doing. And then publish pamphlets, brochures as a part of strategy. Whatever money it was, so we devoted some money, actually quite a good money, to outreach, because it takes a lot of effort to travel and meet people, build a business case what you are doing. So I think that was the key. And then also in terms of staff, we also try to do we got 4 data visualizers with us from the start. But I think for the first 6 months, we worked with them on a contractual basis. So how much we will work, we give them, they get paid for that, and that was done. But then after that, we found okay, money is coming, and we are okay, satisfied. We start hiring all of them on a full terms.
So one last lightning round question before we break ahead of our broader kind of synopsis and Q&A session. We've heard a lot about different business models, subscriptions, memberships, B2B, a separate product that subsidizes the kind of service-oriented piece of it. What are the limitations of the model that you've chosen? Or if there's one thing that you could change, what would it be?
I think the advertising model is largely labor intensive, and it's not that we would probably change it, but probably recognizing the kind of it's not just labor, but really the kind of mental investment that you pour into it, and it's a constant monthly rigorous preparation for it. So the advertising model that Rappler follows is, while it is game-changing, it requires a lot of work. And we had to aspire for the big clients. And so we did not probably focus much on the small ones. Like in local parlance, we call it tingy, the small amounts. And I guess in that sense, a crowdfunding thing would have helped.
I think the one thing we could have really done is like maybe scaling up more quickly. I think we got a growth, we saw something happening, and we saw space. But I think we were a little bit slow in terms of maybe for 6-7 months to understand where we're going. And I think that was really critical for us, whether we should take an investor now. I remember when we started the whole thing, it was just a plain paper. The whole thing was on a concept note. And we got a first investor ready to invest in the whole thing. But I said, no, we are fine, we have some money. But then I think it's key to scale up quickly. You can't wait for growth, because if you don't grow quickly, it's not a great model.
I think we were and are very clear that advertising is not an option for us, or the advertising model is not an option for us. Though we could work with, let's say, and we're seeing some outreach on that, companies to host, let's say, a conference in health or conference in education and so on. So that's a different kind of revenue. But advertising is ruled out. So that leaves only two options. There's the subscription that you could get potentially from individual readers, and the subscriptions that we could get from our publishing partners. We find the publishing partner route more secure today. Of course, I mean, any model is I guess, insecure in some sense. But the consumer model we are quite unsure of, at least for a market like India, where because of years of advertising funded newspapers and content, consumers are not used to paying, and we are not sure whether we can really drum up a proposition which encourages them to pay, at least to the level that we could really support ourselves. So at least for the foreseeable future, we see ourselves as a combination of contributions and donations and subscription from our publishing partners.
As I mentioned before, we entirely rely on membership model, but I know developing a variety of source of funding is very important. But GIJN actually hasn't really tried to diversify funding source yet, because we believe it's more important to manage the current 40,000 members and gain new members. Also, we think bringing in extra revenue from other sources would rather weaken donating members' strong sense of need to support us. So it's a kind of tricky. Yeah.
The one thing I want to change will be definitely the advertising model. I look, it is really, really tough. I would not recommend it. Really, you're going to earn some money, but if you want to earn a lot of money from advertising, it's going to be difficult. You will have to put in a lot of effort, and the problem is that as technology changes, it also impacts on advertising. Like say, for instance, the move from desktop to mobile. 70% of our readership is actually now accessing Malaysiakini through mobile. Really, we're no longer a desktop website. People are no longer accessing Malaysiakini through desktop or laptops, things like that. It's actually through mobile devices. Now, advertising on mobile doesn't bring in the kind of income that you would get from desktop. You earn hell a lot less. So that has impact on the income. So it is. We need to adjust to that. And I know that for us, we can see that is coming. So we would need to see what other ways that we can do to diversify our income. And focus on what Gloria mentioned on bringing in big money through advertising rather than the 10 cents or 20 cents per view or whatever it is. That also, we are already setting up our own quote unquote an advertising agency. which because of the fact that increasingly advertisers are demanding, they are no longer interested in banner ads because that's not working for them. They want the native content. They want like say for instance, Central Bank of Malaysia. They want to advertise in Malaysiakini, and they say, look, can you produce content for us that that somehow we can advertise in. And we have to pitch them and say, look, what about if we produce a content about the danger of pyramid scheme, the scams, whatever, with something that is linked to Bank Negara, that's something that they're interested in to educate the public, something like that. We produce a video like that, and then sponsored by Central Bank, something like that. And it is a lot of work. You need to have a separate group of people to focus on it. And these are not journalists; they are completely separate. These are editorial. These are they are writers, they are videographers, and all that, and they will produce that content, which companies and different people can actually sponsor, and that is increasingly becoming that way. Advertising agencies are so slow in responding to it that we have to do it ourselves.
Yeah, of course we should do that. I think that's what the sales team of Rappler is doing right now. We've tried to bypass the media companies, the media buyers, so that when our sales team sits down with the big companies, they offer the entire package from the thought process to execution. I think that's also a challenge for a lot of media companies now. While advertising is evolving, we're still needed because precisely they don't know social as Rappler would, and that's the kind of value added that we bring to them.
Thank you. Excellent answers to those questions. So I look forward to continuing this conversation after the break. I hope you do too. Let's try to be back here in 15 minutes or so, just to kind of keep things on time so that we can all make it upstairs for the farewell at noon. So we'll see you back here in about 15 minutes. Thank you so much.